friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to share my May wrap up with you and a couple of books that I finished towards the end of April. So the first book that I'm going to talk to you about is Ignite Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is the third and final book in the original trilogy, but of course it's gotten more books since then, including Restore Me and other things to come. But I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed finishing the trilogy. I loved the characters. It went in a direction that I wasn't expecting, but I kind of was thinking because of the romance and stuff like that. Everybody kept talking about certain characters, and I just didn't see it, didn't feel it until this book, and I really saw what they were talking about. I will not say that this was my favorite in the series. I really did like Unravel Me more. It was my favorite one because it had so many twists and turns, and this one was a little bit slower paced than Unravel Me. I felt like in Unravel Me, even though they were in one location, so much stuff was going on, so much character growth, so we were learning so much about the characters, and I definitely did like this. But let's see what my final rating was. I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars, and Unravel Me got 5 stars. So I do plan to continue on with the series. This was kind of my test to see. You probably already saw that I hauled Restore Me, so you should know that I loved it. And then I read Layover by Amy Handelson and Emily Meyer. I picked this up on my trip to Washington, D.C. with my husband at Union Station. I just needed a book to read because we were going to be waiting for a few hours. So I picked this up on one of the little shops, and I figured Layover, it's a perfect title. So you have these 3 siblings who have a very close relationship, and then their parents are inviting them, or they're supposed to be going on this family vacation, and the youngest sister, Poppy, told the 2 older siblings, Flynn and Amos, that the reason why they were going on this family vacation was because the parents were going to get a divorce, and they were worried about being split up. So they said, let's take this matter into our own hands. Let's not get on our flight. Let's run away. So that's what they did. So this is kind of their adventure of running away and reconnecting as a family, because Amos has been away for a while and now he's come back, and it's just kind of has a little bit of a forbidden romance between 2 step siblings. I don't know, it's just kind of an adventure story, but I ended up rating this 2 out of 5 stars just because I really don't think that it was very well done. I don't know, there was just, I don't know, yeah, 2 out of 5 stars. And I read All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I got accepted for an early art copy of this. I still do plan to do my full review of that coming closer to the release date in July. But this is by far my favorite Colleen Hoover book. I pretty much have enjoyed all of her books except for Ugly Love. I didn't really like that one. Some of her later ones I haven't read Without Merit yet. I've heard that that's not a really good one. But I love All Your Perfects with all of my being. It hit very close to home. I do want to say that it deals with a couple that kind of have this, they meet, and it kind of flashes back and forth between them meeting back in the day and that timeline, but also them in the current day and the struggles that they're dealing with as a couple. I do want to say that it deals with infertility, and I think I've said in several other videos that if you consider that a spoiler, I'm sorry that you consider that a spoiler, but as someone that is dealing with infertility herself, I think it's very important for people that are dealing with infertility to know you're about to read a book that deals specifically with infertility, because it's a very touchy subject. So unless you're dealing with infertility yourself and you can speak on that matter, I really don't think you have a place to say. So I do want to say that one of the main themes in the story is infertility. But it's also about love, finding the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, and overcoming obstacles and challenges in a relationship, such as infertility. This is the first book that I finished in May. So the first full-length novel that I actually started in May and finished in May is Born Darkly by Trisha Wolfe, and Nicole from Let's Talk Books and I buddy read this, and I think she enjoyed it a little bit more than I did. It's basically about this psychologist that takes on this case of this inmate, and she's obviously attracted to this inmate. He ends up going on trial, and she's supposed to like help him prove like certain things in his case, but it ends up being a lot more than that. Yeah, criminal psychologist, and she falls for her patient, convicted serial killer Grayson Pierce. I ended up rating this 2 out of 5 stars just because it was just like, I don't know, it was kind of like two dark people like have this romance, but I don't know, it just seemed, I don't know, it was, there was just something about it. I don't know if it was the writing or the characters that I didn't like or the direction that the novel took. But there is a second book. I don't know if it's a duology or like what, but I know there is another book, and that one I am like a little bit more drawn to because the way this finished up, I'm like, it could get better from here. So I don't know if I'm going to pick it up. I know it's not a priority by any means, but I do think Nicole from Let's Talk Books enjoyed this more, so you'll probably want to hear like her more in-depth thoughts about that, so check out her channel. Then I read The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. I did read this when I was doing one of my weekend reading vlogs, and I really did enjoy this. Trigger warnings for suicide and depression. This is about a young girl whose mother commits suicide, and there's this magical realism element about she believes that her mother has transformed into this red bird, and she gets this box, I believe, that sends her to Taiwan to visit her grandmother and grandfather, who basically she's never really had any interaction with. But she goes there, her and her father go there, and she's kind of exploring her culture, her heritage, trying to find out what her mother in this bird form is trying to tell her. And other family members come into the mix. She learns more about her mother than she ever knew. And it kind of has like flashbacks of like memories and stuff like that. And I really did enjoy this overall. I ended up rating it 4 out of 5 stars. Things that I didn't like about it is there was so much color talk that it was just, there was just so much. And I gave examples in my reading vlog, and I did highlight it. I haven't tabbed it yet, but there was just so much color talk because the main character feels and sees like everything is associated with a color. I forget what that's called. It's some scientific term, and I know it's like a real thing, but not only that, so there was that aspect to the story, but like feelings and stuff like that being in color. But there was also, you know, the red bird and the feathers and the smoke and the night sky. Like everything was described so much color. And it was just, it was almost, I glossed over that because I couldn't take on that much detail. I want some of my books to be like a little bit left to my imagination. I want to build it a little bit myself, and I felt like in this book I couldn't at all build this world, create these characters, create this world at all myself. I had to see it exactly as like it was meant to be seen, and I think that was just like too much for me personally. I did like the story. It went like a different direction than I thought it was going to. There were some surprises in there for sure. So definitely check it out. I think it's an excellent read, but it was just too much color for me, if you know what I'm saying. If you're more interested in like my thoughts as I was reading it, definitely check out that vlog. I will have it linked in the cards and down below. Then I picked up A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Victoria Schwab, V.E. Schwab, same person. I loved this. I'm so glad I finally picked it up. I think Spence from Common Spence like finally convinced me to pick it up and read it because he was raving about it in one of his reading vlogs. And I picked this up and I flew through it in like a day and a half or something like that. I just loved it. It really introduced the world and everything was explained very nicely. I liked our main characters in this, and I liked the different Londons. I liked how what I liked about it was that it was explained right in the beginning, and I highlighted it on page 14 and 15. about how the other London smelled. So there is a gray London, a white London, and a red London. And it was saying that the gray London smells like smoke, the white London blood, and red London, people say has like this floral smell, but to our main character Kel, it smells like home. And then on page 15, it talks about the magic of each of the Londons: gray, magicless city; red, a healthy empire; and white for the starving world. And then there's this other black London that they also talk about. So I highlighted that thinking that I would maybe need to reference it, but I never did. V.E. Schwab has a way of including important bits into the story that you never have to like reference a map or like previous pages or like characters. Her world, her characters are so well done that it kind of reminds you, and in a way that doesn't feel like, don't forget, you know, it's so nice. The way her writing just flows and how it's like magical. And what I loved probably the most about this book was the ending. This could be seen as a standalone. You do not have to commit to reading a full trilogy if you don't want to. Now, I'm going to tell you, you're going to want to, because the characters and the world are amazing. And you could just like imagine the things to come. But this is one of those books that you could pick up, try. If you don't like it, no commitment issues. You know what I'm saying? This is like that no strings attached book that if you want more, you can have more. If you don't, then you don't have to. That's what I loved about this. So this book really does have like a final conclusion, and you feel like everything is wrapped up. And that's probably one of the things that I loved most about it. It doesn't have to leave you on that cliffhanger to show you how awesome this story actually is. 5 out of 5 stars. Picked up and read When Dimple Met Rishi, and I also did this in a weekend reading vlog, and I did tab a couple of things here. I don't think it was a perfect read, but I think it's more of a 4 stars than a 5 stars, but I gave it 5 stars just for my simple enjoyment. A couple of the things that I talked about in that vlog were, I don't really know a lot about Indian culture or language, and so I felt like I was personally lacking, and it was like my own ignorance didn't help me like with the story. But what like still propelled it, even though I was having like a couple of issues with it, is that like some of the things were described so nice. On page 37, and I'll just leave names out of it. So name smiled again, but fully this time, unrestrained. It was like watching the sunrise, name thought, or the streetlights come on at dusk. Gradual, powerful, brilliant in a way. So I just thought that was so good. Like, I love it because you can like imagine that, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like so good. So I definitely enjoyed this. Like I said, probably not really a 5 stars, but I gave it 5 stars because overall I really enjoyed the story. I also picked up a couple of comics, and I did this through the Hoopla app, which I need to jump on and get my 5 for this month. But you can, I think you can get like 5 titles a month, and I'm doing this specifically for graphic novels because my library never has graphic novels or comics, so I'm just going to do it this way, and I can fly through them quickly on my tablet. So the first one that I read was Papergirls Volume 1, and I rated this 3 stars. I'm looking down at my phone because I want to like describe it to you. So I said that I'm definitely intrigued enough to continue on in the series. I read a digital copy, so I couldn't really connect with it for that reason, because I felt like maybe if I had a physical copy, I would connect with the characters and the story more than like just having it, you know, digitally. The artwork, oh my gosh, fantastic. And I think it's going to be like an interesting story. I really do like the main characters of the Papergirls themselves. But it's just like weird sci-fi, alien, like different world traveling thing that I was not expecting at all. So it definitely is a different storyline than I was ever anticipating. If you would have told me that's what the storyline was about or where the direction it was heading, I probably would have never picked it up. But I was just intrigued about these like Papergirls. So that's what's keeping me reading, and the artwork. So I ended up reading the first volume 3 stars. Then I read volume 2, and I read this, rated this 4 stars. So it's more of a 3.5, but I rounded up. Again, I love the characters, but the story is so weird and so confusing. There's so much kind of happening and nothing ever, you never feel like there's a resolution. And so that's always weird. Like you're like wondering, what direction is this going? Am I ever going to get an answer for this question that the characters have? And you kind of never do. So that just kind of makes it weird. But so volume 1, 3 stars, volume 2, 4 stars. Then I read my favorite book of the year. I know it's going to be my favorite book of the year. Oh my God, you guys. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I just can't with this, you guys. I have so many tabs here and I loved it so much. I knew I was going to enjoy it because, like, full disclosure, I've read 2 other books by Taylor Jenkins Reid. One True Love, so it's my favorite book of 2016. And I enjoyed her other book immensely as well. But, oh my God, you guys, this book is so good. I love that it's kind of like a story within a story. And I also love one of the main characters, Evelyn Hugo herself. And she's such an interesting character, but she comes to life. She is a real person and I need more of her story. I want more of her story. Like, go back and fill in all the details you left out. Like, it's just so amazing. Highly recommend if you're into like old Hollywood stories, kind of gossipy columns, if you're into love stories, because as the title suggests, she talks about like her 7 husbands and stuff. Let me tell you what it's about. Okay, let me back up. It's so good I can't stop thinking about it. I'm trying to write a review and I just can't bring myself to, like, I don't even know where to begin, and I'm going to try to film a review, so maybe that will be coming. It's just, there's so much about this book, and I don't know. It's so good. But I did have this on one of my weekend reading vlogs, so if you're interested in my full thoughts as I was reading it, definitely check that out. I will say I did this as part of the buddy read Evelyn Hugo thing that Julie does. She does like different buddy reads from time to time, but anyway, I read this specifically for that and I like flew through it so quickly. But I will say that it starts off with Monique being offered this job to go and interview Evelyn Hugo. Recently, Evelyn Hugo, she's been this, like, she was a starlet in her 50s and, like, she was a starlet in the 50s and 60s and then continued into the 70s, 80s, and even 90s. And she's, like, super old Hollywood, kind of never has done anything recently, and like everybody wants to know like the inside scoop about these 7 husbands. And she recently put like 12 gowns or something like that up for auction at Christie's, and she reaches out to this magazine company and asks for Monique specifically. And Frankie, her boss, which by the way is a black woman running a magazine company, Monique is biracial. Courtesy dark brown eyes, courtesy of my black father. Oh, light brown skin and dark brown eyes, courtesy of my black father, and abundance of face freckles, courtesy of my white mother. So biracial, main character Monique is given this story, and she's supposed to go there and find out as much as she can about these 7 husbands. But she gets there and Evelyn Hugo tells her like, no, I'm not doing this for the magazine. I want you to write my biography. And Monique is like, holy crap, dude, like, yes, please. And then she's like, you can sell it for as much as you want. Like, you know, I'm going to give you the, you know, the inside scoop of my life and, you know, stuff like that. So it basically starts the launch of her career and how she really is like unapologetically doing anything and everything that it takes to like get into the industry, stay in the industry, stay at the top, and, you know, live her life at the same time. So she goes into, and it's broken into different chapters of our sections of all of her 7 husbands, and you get this full story. But also we find out that Evelyn is bisexual. So you're like, where does that fall into, you know, the 7 husbands spectrum? So I thought that was super cool that we have like a bisexual main character, and I love that I feel like, I can't speak from experience, but I felt like it was very realistic and beautifully written and, you know, believable and well done. But again, I'm not bisexual myself, so I really can't speak to that, but I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I just couldn't get enough. As I was like nearing the end, I was just like, no, 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 I don't want it to be over. There were just so many great lines, so many, you know, you find out about this starlet and you're just learning so much about her life. There's so many things that like you just don't see coming, and the lengths that she's willing to go to like stay popular, stay in demand, you know, relaunch her career. And there's also like little news media bits, like they'll have like little magazine, like right here, they'll have like little magazine or little paparazzi little, you know, articles or whatever mixed in, and it's just, it's so well done, and I just didn't want it to be over. I want to know more about Evelyn Hugo, because I am bound and determined to figure out who this person is and where she lives, and I just, oh my gosh, she's such a real person, and I just wasn't ready for it to be over. I definitely see myself rereading this because it was just that darn good, you guys. Obviously 5 stars, but can I really give it 10? Then I read Dumplin by Julie Murphy, which I'm really happy that I read, because on one hand, the fat rep is done so well, but on the other hand, the body talk in this book was way over the top. And I do have a full written review of this book on my blog, so I will link that down in the description box for you if you want to see like my full thoughts. I do plan on doing a video review, but if you want to know my thoughts right now, like definitely check out that review. Again, it's a written review linked in the description box. This is the story of Willow Dean, who lives in this town in Texas that has this, her mom is in charge of this like beauty pageant. It's like Blue Bonnet beauty pageant. It's like super popular in their town. It definitely has those like southern charm, down home, like small town vibes, and it just reminded me a lot of home, even though I didn't grow up in Texas. I was born and like lived in South Carolina, Aiken, South Carolina, until like I finished my 9th grade year there, and then 10th, 11th, and 12th I finished somewhere else. But yeah, it like reminded me a lot of home, and I did listen to this on audio, so like the audio narration was like really good as well. It was like they had that twang going, and I could just like, I was feeling it. I don't know what my final rating on this is. I went with 3 stars, but I mean, I'm kind of being a little generous, I believe. As you can see, I tabbed it quite a bit. I don't know if you can see that, but I did tab it quite a bit. And all of these tabs are things that I could have tabbed more, to be completely honest. There is good fat girl representation in this. There is that. But there's also a lot of negative body representation in here. Let me give you some examples. Okay, so Willow Dean, our main character, is a plus-size lady. But right here on page 4, as I'm digging through my bag looking for my keys, I notice Millie Michaelachuk waddling down the sidewalk and through the parking lot. Like, why did we have to use waddling? 5. Millie is that girl, the one that I'm ashamed to admit that I've spent my whole life looking at and thinking, things could be worse. I'm fat, but Millie's the type of fat that requires elastic waist pants because they don't make pants with buttons and zippers in her size. Her eyes are too close together and her nose pinches up at the end. She wears shirts with puppies and kittens, and not in an ironic way. This is page 18. Amanda's legs are uneven, so she wears these thick corrective shoes that make her look like Frankenstein, at least according to Patrick Thomas. Page 33. And who the hell was that twiggy bitch? And then it, as soon as it's out of my mouth, I regret it. All my life, I've had a body worth commenting on. And if living in my skin has taught me anything, it's that if it's not your body, it's not yours to comment on. Fat, skinny, short, tall, it doesn't matter. But yet she continues to comment on people. Here's an example of good fat girl representation, I believe. The reality of him touching me, of him touching my back fat and my overflowing waistline, it makes me want to gag. I see myself in comparison to every other girl he's likely touched with their smooth backs and trim waists. Also page 74. And I remember how, this is another good representation I think, and I remember how uncomfortable his touch on my body makes me feel. A little while later, I know that when he inches me towards the short dumpster with the lid and holds his hand around my waist that he wants to lift me up. So I always reach back and hoist myself up because the thought of him trying to lift me and failing makes me cringe every time. Another negative. I'm going to just say name instead of the person's name. Name is big. He's got a bit of a belly and shoulders wider than most door frames, but people don't look at him and think fat. Another one. 153. On the other side of the square, a short, wide person frantically waves their arms over their head. Page 174. This is another, like, relatable, like, good. No matter how much I tell myself that the fat and the stretch marks don't matter, they do. There are days when I really give zero flying fucks, and I'm totally satisfied with this body of mine. How can I be both of those people at once? It also had really great quotes, like, I obviously don't know the whole story here, but good friendships are durable. They're meant to survive the gaps and the growing pains. Let's see what else. No matter who you are, there will always be someone prettier or smarter or thinner. Perfection is nothing more than a phantom shadow we're all tracing. And then on the very next page, it says, she's even shorter and somehow rounder without her high heels. Like, why are we talking about the bodies? Let's see. There was more and more and more. Yeah, so I was just like, with everything that was good, I would get like 3 bads. 1 good, 3 bads. 1 good, 3 bads. But there is a side character that is lesbian, but you really don't know that until the end. So I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it at the same time. But I do want to continue on in Pudding because I have heard that that book is like better than this one. So I definitely want to check it out, and I do want to continue to support this author. Because if we get characters like these, I still need them in my life. Okay, then I read 2 other comics, and then I DNF'd 2 books. So the next comic that I read was Papergirls Volume 3, and I rated it 2 stars. And at this point, I'm kind of, I mean, I love the art, I love the characters, don't get me wrong, but that's not enough to hold my interest. And I feel like the story just went in a really weird direction. It's like even weirder than volumes 1 or 2, and I'm not getting answers, and I'm sort of getting pissed. You know what I'm saying? Like, at this point, I need some answers, and I'm not getting them, and it's frustrating me. Taproot, which is about this boy that works in a flower shop. So he's a gardener, and let's see what I wrote. I wrote gardening, flower shops, queer characters, ghosts, the Reaper, necromancy, and beautiful art. Thumbs up. So I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. And it is a standalone. I would have liked to see more from that. But yeah, I'm not getting it. So the 2 things that I DNF'd, I DNF'd Moonstruck Volume 1. Was that what it was called? Moonstruck Volume 1, Magic to Brew by Grace Ellis. I DNF'd this because I think it's going to have like either a bisexual like relationship or a lesbian relationship, but I just can't get into it. The characters are animals, and it's just too much for me to like process in my head. So, and it wasn't really interesting up until the part I read like maybe 25% of it or 30% of it, and I just had to like, I was like, no, I can't push through this. The last thing that I DNF'd was Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I am also selling that on my Depop shop for $10. $10, it's yours. Here it is right here. I do have the beautiful foil cover edition right here. So if you're interested in purchasing this from me, it's available on my Depop shop. But yeah, I could not get into this. I love Marissa Meyer. I like love her Lunar Chronicles right over here. But I didn't really like Heartless, and I didn't really like this. So I'm wondering if like the Lunar Chronicles was like a one-hit wonder for me. But this, in the very beginning, it has all of these characters listed, the cast of characters, and it has it broken up into the Renegades and the Anarchists and the Renegade Council. And the beginning, like, little bit talks about, it's kind of like the prequel, kind of, like, in a little, like, couple chapters. So you're reading that, and then you start with present day, and, like, I was just reading it, and I just wasn't, no. I just wasn't loving it. Like, I don't even think I got very far at all. And I was just like, why? There's so many characters, and I'm sure, like, as you read, they're going to become, like, more, you know, like, you're going to understand them more and you're going to, like, learn them more. But I felt myself flipping back to that character list so darn much that it wasn't even funny. There were just too many characters. That darn parade killed me, and I just couldn't keep anybody straight. I was like, are they the good guy? Are they the bad guy? Who are they? Are they friends? Are they not friends? Who are you describing? What do they look like? What's their special ability? I just couldn't. So I said, you know what? Superheroes really aren't my thing. Goodbye. And, you know, DNF'd it. And I don't even feel bad. So, again, this book is available on my Depop shop if you are interested. But that wraps up the books that I have read in May. I read a lot more than I thought I did, or I was going to. Again, reading vlogs have helped me. So if you like my reading vlogs, let me know and I will continue to do them. I'll probably continue to do them even if you don't like them, because I really like doing them. But I'm currently reading Furthermore and enjoying it so much. It's so magical. It's so mystical. It's making me have these weird, wacky dreams of my own, and it's kind of disturbing. But anyway, that's all for today's video. Let me know if you have read any of these books, which ones was your favorite, and also if you haven't checked out The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, please, 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 please do, because it's so good. But that's all for today's video. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're all having a lovely day, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye!